Spell your first and last name.
Jamie Nading, Jamienading.
Your occupation.
A forensic scientist.
Go ahead, Mr. Galachek.
Good morning. Where do you currently work,
At the State Crime Lab in Anchorage.
and how long have you worked there?
About 6 years.
What type of work do you do there?
I have multiple functions at the lab. I have latent print processing, latent print examination, crime scene processing, and footwear intelligence.
Are there some things you do more often than others, or is it pretty much an equal split?
No, it's probably like an 80-20 split. Most of the time we're doing fingerprint work at the lab. We don't get crime scenes every day. We also don't respond to everything, so crime scenes is secondary.
And is there a pretty high demand for fingerprint comparison?
Yes,
And you already said the crime lab is in Anchorage. Do you reside in Anchorage?
I do.
And did you grow up in Anchorage?
I do. Mhm.
And give me a little bit of information about your educational background and work history, if any, before you got to the crime laboratory.
I have an Associate of Applied Science degree in criminal investigation, and I also have a Bachelor of Science degree in biochemistry. Before the lab, I worked as a pharmacy technician for a few years, and then got hired at the lab in 2012, and I've been there since.
And you know that I will be asking you questions mostly that apply to crime scene processing, correct?
Correct.
Let's talk a little bit about the specific training you had on crime scene processing.
The training program at the laboratory was about a year long. It consisted of required readings, multiple practical exercises, written tests, lots of mock and observed casework, and also a mock court at the end.
And is there on-the-job training, like learning by doing also?
Yes, and that's part of the observed casework that went on through the year of the training program. And then at the end of that, there was an observed case as like my first case, you could say.
And I'm curious, as to this discipline as compared to other professions, does experience help eventually?
It does, yes.
And like, in which way would experience help?
The more that you see and the more that you do, you get better every time, just like with anything. And I think just repetition of the skills, you get better.
All right, and I'll ask you the same question I asked Ms. Weehy. Have you ever encountered two crime scenes that were exactly alike?
Never.
And have you been trained to handle both indoor and outdoor crime scenes?
Yes, as well as vehicles.
So the crime scene could be a vehicle?
Mhm.
And have you been involved in cases or incidents where there are a number of crime scenes, quote unquote?
Yes.
So let me turn your attention to December 1st, 2016. Did you process an older camper trailer in the Matanuska Valley?
I did, along with some other people.
All right. And let me just talk about the period before, the time before December 1st, 2016. Had you processed other crime scenes before that?
Yes.
Okay. And had you testified in court about the processing of other crime scenes before December 1st, 2016?
I had only once before.
And then since December 1st, 2016, have you processed other crime scenes, not in addition to this one, did you process other crimes?
Yes.
And have you testified in court since December 1st, 2016?
Yes.
But how many times do you figure?
Probably twice.
And have you been qualified as an expert in crime scene processing?
Yes.
I would move to qualify Mrs. Nading as an expert in the area of crime scene processing.
Okay, so certified.
So now going to December 1st, 2016, and referring your attention to an older holiday vacationer travel trailer, did you process this trailer?
I did.
Where was the trailer located when you processed it?
At MTR Matanuska Towing and Recovery in Palmer.
And was it outside or was it inside?
It was inside a garage.
How big would you say this travel trailer is roughly? The jurors will see it eventually, but just ballpark.
I mean, it was a pretty good size with a living space and bathroom and area. I'm not sure how big.
Okay, and when we talk about the travel trailer, it's the kind that has wheels and you could attach it to the hitch of a truck or a car.
Correct.
And pull it along the road, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you didn't know the exact year of the camper trailer, right?
I don't recall it. I don't think so.
Okay. Now, you said there were other people with you. Who else came with you to process the trailer?
Investigator Decor was there, forensic scientist Carly Weehee, and Martin Orlowitz.
And Mr. Orlowitz is from the crime lab?
Yes, he was in training at the time, doing his observed casework.
And Dekur is a state trooper investigator?
Yes,
And had you worked with all those people before or not?
I have.
I presume you have before you walk into a place to be processed, you have some information as to what the thing or scene may relate to, is that correct?
Not all the time. We do know if it's a vehicle or if it's a house, most likely. But a lot of times we don't have any information until we arrive for really what we're looking for. We just bring our whole kit every time.
Before you started the processing of this trailer, did you become aware that this was related to the disappearance of a teenage
Yes.
boy in Palmer?
Yes.
And we're gonna go through some photographs eventually, but was there a plan as to how this crime scene was gonna be processed?
I wouldn't say a plan. We do have a general process for processing vehicles, including a trailer, where we start with photographs, we start with documentation from the outside in, and then we don't move or add any chemicals or physical processes until it's been documented with photography first.
Let me get a little bit more specific. When you first looked inside the trailer, did you see a lot of things or a lot of stuff in the trailer?
Yes, it did have a lot of items in it.
What kind of stuff did it have inside of the trailer?
There were a lot of clothing. We ended up removing everything from the trailer and taking photographs of that. But I'd probably have to check my notes too.
So this is what I'm getting at, was the first step to get everything out of there so people could move around and,
After it had been documented as is, yes.
and then eventually I'll be asking you, as you know, about observations you made and certain evidence you collected from the trailer, namely some suspected blood stains. The collection, the photography of the suspected blood stains and the collection of those stains, was that done after all the stuff was moved out or before the stuff was moved out?
The visible stains were done first. The secondary non-visible stains where we used chemicals were done after.
And do you remember when you got in the trailer, do you remember any particular odors associated with the trailer?
Initially opening the door, there was some white residue present, which may or may not have been some sort of cleaning supply, but I can't say for sure.
And do you remember smelling it
Mhm.
also?
Yes,
What did it smell like to you? And I'm assuming you smelled some.
just
cleaning.
some type of cleaning agent.
All right. Now, for this particular trailer, is there one door
I believe so, yes.
to go in and out of the trailer?
Yes,
And you said there was a sleeping area in the trailer, correct?
yes,
Was there a kitchen area in the trailer too?
there was.
And was there also a bathroom in
Yes.
the trailer? And As far as the inside of the trailer, were all four of you in the trailer at the same time?
Not initially. Carly went in and took all the photographs of the trailer. And then once we started moving things out, we were all kind of in and out.
And is it a pretty tight fit with four people in there, for example?
Yes. I would say not all four of us were in there at the same time.
And was it because of the space in the trailer, or is it because of the stuff in the trailer, or a combination?
A combination of both.
How about after the stuff was taken out of the trailer, was there a little bit more room at that point?
There was more room to move, yes.
But is it still tight even at?
Yes.
If we could please have those lights off, and I'm gonna turn your direction to some exhibits. Turning your attention to state's proposed exhibit number 79, can you tell us what that is? Is that the trailer you examined?
It's not where I examined it,
Right,
but
right.
it does look like it, yes.
Okay, so this would be a photograph of the trailer before it was moved into the garage.
Okay.
But does it appear to be the same trailer?
It does.
Turning your attention next to number 80.
This is a photo from the doorway to the back of the trailer.
And you have the laser pointer there
Yes.
today? Okay. And when you say there was a sleeping area, can you see the sleeping area in there?
It's in the very back here. This is seating area and a kitchen over here, and then back here.
All right. And I know some of that photo is washed out. We'll get to some other photographs. But let's move on to state's proposed exhibit number 81. What does this photograph show?
This would be the sleeping area, just a little bit closer.
So were there two sleeping areas? Like, so the one you're referring to is the bottom portion?
The bottom,
there?
correct.
Is there also a loft or a place that could be used as a sleeping area upstairs, upper,
Yes,
in the upper part? Okay. And now this photo, this would be while some of the items were still in the trailer?
yes, we hadn't removed it yet.
Let's turn our attention to state's proposed exhibit number 82. Tell us what's depicted in this photograph.
This is the kitchen area here, and there's a mirror. The bathroom door is right next to, right here.
And show me where the sink is.
The kitchen sink
Yes.
is right here.
Okay. And in this photograph, we can still see that loft area that we saw in the previous one,
Yes.
correct?
That's the top and the bottom.
All right. And while we're doing this, if the photo on the screen is too fuzzy or washed out, and you can't answer my question, just I'll bring these up to you, because
Okay.
these have better detail, okay?
Okay.
Proposed exhibit number 83.
This is a photo of the door entering the trailer.
So this particular door, does it swing out?
It does, and it had a screen.
And this shows, again, some of the stuff that was inside the trailer when you first encountered it, correct?
Correct.
And this photograph, this is inside the MTR garage.
Correct.
Now, you said there was some white stuff on the floor, and we'll get to some other photos, but can you show us on this one the approximate place where the white stuff was found?
It's hard to see in this photo, but it's right along the door frame here.
State's proposed exhibit number 84. Is this a photograph looking from the sleeping area towards the door of the trailer?
Yes.
So using the pointer, can you show me where the door to the trailer is, the one that lets you go in and out of the trailer itself?
The door is here.
And then, we talked about there being a bathroom. Can you show me where the bathroom door is?
This opening here.
And the bathroom's fairly small, is that correct?
Yes.
And does that particular door swing in or swing out?
I believe it swinged out.
And then the sitting area, you can see that in there, correct? Can you point
Yes.
to where the sitting area is? And then also the kitchen slash sink,
Right in the corner.
thank you. And the walls of the brown walls we see, like where the thermostat is located, is that fake wood type stuff?
It is.
Turning our attention to state's proposed exhibit number 85, what is shown in that photograph?
This is the view from inside the living area into the bathroom.
And again, does it show some of the stuff that was inside the bathroom?
It does.
Turning your attention to state's proposed exhibit number 86.
Just a close-up view of the toilet and contents near it.
And did it appear that there was some urine in the toilet?
It's possible that it was colored, yes.
It wasn't clear water, right?
Right.
Okay. And sometimes, do you have a camper or a recreational vehicle?
I don't.
All right, sometimes people put that red or pink antifreeze in it before winter.
Okay.
Do you remember if that color was that bright pink or red antifreeze, or was it a different type of color?
It looked more of a yellow-brown color.
Thank you. Turning our attention to state's proposed exhibit number 87, what does this show?
This is a view of these stickers here are some of the stains that we labeled, the visible ones. And then you can also see the white residue that I was talking about in the entryway.
All right, and do you know, were there drawers in this area originally and then they were taken out before you took this photograph?
Yes, this is a photo of after the contents were removed.
All right, so the stickers, point again to the sticker.
There's one here, and one right in here.
And they have some writing on them. Would
They
that
do.
be- those were stickers that the team placed on those areas?
Correct.
Okay. Now, as far as what you can see from this photograph, I mean, it appears that there's some staining next to the sticker that's the highest one,
This one?
correct?
Yes.
And you need to see this thing?
Maybe, yes, that would help.
I'm gonna give you state's proposed exhibit number 87. So again, you might have to leave the chair and get some light on that if you, we'll get to some close-ups eventually. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay, so the sticker, that's the highest one off the ground, was there some, what appeared to be obvious staining next to it?
Yes, that was labeled S1 as a red-brown stain.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Now we're gonna get into some close-ups here. Turning your attention to state's proposed exhibit number 88. Do you recognize that?
It is a close-up photo of S1.
And why was this place marked as S1 with the sticker?
So we go through and we label any visible stains that we see, and then we will also test them for possible blood using a presumptive test to help us determine what to collect and what not to collect from a scene.
And how many S's are we gonna be dealing with here?
We had 7.
So, and was it the same procedure, sticker, photography, testing it for presumptive blood, collecting it?
Yes, if it's positive, we collect it.
All right, so, let's start out with the procedure. the general procedure. So the sticker, that's a sticker you have in your processing kit?
We do.
All right. And S, does it stand for anything?
We usually label our stains as S, and we just number them from 1 until however many we have.
And for the stains, did you observe them just with your regular eyes? Or did you use any instruments or lights to identify the stains before you put stickers next to them? And before you tested them for presumptive blood, and before you collected them?
There were a few that were visible with just a flashlight, this one included. So we labeled those, and then we also did find some smaller stains with a chemical.
And explain how you tested the stains for what you folks used, the name presumptive blood.
Yes.
We'll get into what that means too.
It's called Hemostix. It's a color test. It looks like a pH strip with a little yellow pad on the end. So we will do a control to make sure that it's working properly. And then we will wet a swab, which is just kind of like a longer Q-tip. So we'll wet it with some sterile water on the end, and we'll collect a small piece of the stain, touch the Q-tip end to the yellow pad of the Hemostix, and a green color change indicates positive, and if it doesn't change at all, it's negative.
And is this reagent test, is it meant to test for human blood, animal blood?
It is not human specific, no.
Okay. But it tells you that it's likely blood?
It reacts to the heme component in blood, so it is a presumptive positive for blood. There are some false positives as well.
And for each of these, do you gotta use a separate hemostick for each of the stains?
Yes, every stain gets its own test.
And how big are those things?
The sticks?
Yes.
Maybe a couple inches. They're not very big.
And it's a pretty instantaneous color change?
Yes, probably within the first 30 seconds.
And what does it do for presumptive blood? It turns what color?
Green.
And what does it do if it's not blood? Does it not turn any color?
I object to that because there's other things that cause false positives.
There are.
That's what I'm getting into, just explaining the
Lay the
process.
foundation, go ahead.
Right. So, what color does it start off with? Let me ask that question.
It's just the yellow pad on the end of the stick.
Green for presumptive blood.
Green for presumptive positive,
Yeah.
and it remains yellow for negative.
And again, this is just a preliminary test for you to see whether you should collect something.
Yes.
So this is not the final test.
No, the swabs should be submitted to the lab if they want them further analyzed.
So let's turn our attention to S1, which is on the screen here, it states proposed exhibit number 88. Did this come back as positive for the blood on the reagent test?
It did.
And did you also collect a sample of the stain?
We did.
And can you describe how you collected the sample of the stain?
So after the presumptive test is completed, we get a brand new swab. We'll wet it with some sterile water, just a couple drops, and then we will rub the swab over the area while turning it to collect as much of the stain as possible.
All right. And then after you do that, where do you put that swab?
The swab goes back into the package it came out of, and then into a separate business type envelope, and then that will get packaged later all together with all of the swabs from the scene into one package at the end.
And is this the standard operating procedure for collecting these type of stains?
It is.
And does this collection process, does it apply only to things that you think may be blood, or does it apply to other fluids also, or other substances also?
The Hemostix are only used for possible blood.
How about the collection method?
The collection method as well. We use that just to collect stains. It could be body fluids, I suppose.
All right. And the place where this stain was collected from, it's right near that sticker, correct?
Correct. So the way that we place our stickers, right where the sticker is where the swab is going to be collected from. So if it's a large area, we're only collecting where the sticker is.
And then how would you were in that trailer, how would you describe this spot where S1 was?
May I refer to minutes?
Yes.
So S1 was on the wall right of the bathroom door. So that was that higher stain in the previous photo.
The wall, again, which?
It was the exterior wall entering the bathroom.
Thank you. Let's go to state's proposed exhibit number 89. We have a sticker again, S2, is that right?
Yes.
Right. And is this another spot where you collected a sample?
Correct. So it's a little bit hard to see. There's two stains there, which was on the bottom drawer below the refrigerator, and it was also hemostix positive.
And then, did you use the same collection technique to collect the sample?
Yes.
And let me ask you, so are you trying to get the whole stain, or are you just swapping to get some of it? It might be a question that may come up in.
We would like to get the whole area, yes.
So, like, for example, when I'm looking at state's proposed exhibit number 89, and I see like a few of those red drops after you swap it with the Q-tip type
Mhm.
device, and the human eye will no longer be able to see those red dots?
You might be able to, depending on the stain.
Depending on the surface?
Correct.
Turning your attention to the state's proposed exhibit number 90, another photograph, what does this photograph depict?
This is another stain, S3. It's also hard to tell, little dots.
And on this one, did you do the same test with the hemostick?
I did, yes.
Is it hemosticks or
Hemostix with an A, yeah.
Okay. How do you spell that?
Hemastix.
All right. And same test on S3?
Yes.
And did it come back positive for blood?
Presumptive positive for blood, yes.
Right. And did you also collect this in the same manner as you have described for the previous one?
We did.
And the location on this one again?
S3 was on the left inside wall of the bathroom near the door.
Turning your attention to state's proposed exhibit number 91.
It's hard to read. I think it
Might
says
have some
S4.
So this, yeah, I can give you, let me give you the exhibit we have as 91. And you might have to orient us as to what's up and what's down on this one.
So this is upright, showing S4, which is a stain on the left inside wall of the bathroom near the toilet.
Okay. And do we have the right orientation on the screen? Or?
No.
No.
Yes.
Is that the right orientation?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. And maybe what I'll do is, I'm gonna give you just a permanent marker here.
Mhm.
Can you put just on that exhibit, in case when the jury looks at it later, an up arrow for the direction that should be at the top? Thank you. Now, as to S4, and again, tell us where S4 was again?
S4 was on the left inside wall of the bathroom near the toilet.
And did you test this for blood?
We tested it with hemostix and it was positive.
And did you employ the same collection technique as you did for the other ones?
Yes, it was collected.
All right, we're gonna go to the state's proposed exhibit number 92, which is a close-up of S4.
Yep, it's just a close-up image of S4.
And again, would you agree that the photographs on paper give a little bit more detail than what's on the screen?
They do.
Turn our attention to state's proposed exhibit number 93. Is there another sticker on that, in that location?
There is, I can't read it.
I'm gonna give you state's proposed exhibit number.
It looks like 5 maybe?
Okay.
S5.
Ask you the same questions. Did you do the reagent test on
Yes, so this is a stain on the wall behind the toilet, which was also hemostix positive.
it? And did you employ the same collection techniques?
Yes.
Let's go to state's proposed exhibit number 94.
This is a close-up photo of S5.
Let's go to state's proposed exhibit number 95.
Stain labeled S6, which is on the bathroom floor near the sink. This one was hemostix negative and not collected.
What type of floor do you remember? It's from- I'm
Um,
gonna give you proposed exhibit number 95, so.
Oh.
Do you remember what type of floor there was in that trailer?
Not really, kind of like a linoleum maybe.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Do you remember seeing any loose rugs in there or a rug covering the linoleum?
Not that I recall.
All right. So that one did not react with the hemostix?
It was negative, so we did not collect it.
There's no point in collecting it, okay. Let's go to state's proposed exhibit number 96. And what is shown there?
It's hard to tell, but there's a sticker right there, I believe is F7.
And I'm gonna show you the actual exhibit.
Yes, S7 is a stain on the interior screen door frame, which was hemostix positive, swabbed and collected.
Using the same techniques.
Correct.
Turning our attention to state's proposed exhibit number 97. Do you recognize?
Yes, this is the removed shower curtain. We labeled it as number 55.
Was that analyzed at the scene, or did you just take the whole thing?
We looked at it with light and we collected the entire item.
And did you look at, what type of light did you look at it with?
Just a flashlight,
Regular light?
yeah.
And did you collect it because you saw something on there, or just that you thought that because it was in the area that it would be worthy of further analysis?
I believe because it was in the bathroom area and, or near the bathroom area, and the investigator wanted it collected.
And so, for example, if this went to the lab, which we know it did, right? Whichever forensic scientist would handle this would do so at their pace and under lab conditions.
Yes, it would be analyzed in the laboratory setting.
Turning your attention to state's proposed exhibit number 98.
This is placard 54, which is the screen from the upper section of the door, which was cut out and removed.
And state's proposed exhibit number 99.
This is a closer photo showing, you can kind of tell, it's a little discoloration on the screen.
And the orientation of this one should be, from prior photos, it's not pointed the right way.
It's not, no.
But nonetheless, the reason the placard was there was what?
It was just to depict the screen area that we were going to collect.
Right. And as opposed to swabbing it, was there a decision made to take part of the screen itself?
The investigator wanted it collected as a whole, which is sometimes better. When you're on scene, the conditions aren't the best. The laboratory is a better controlled environment, so we did collect that item.
And while we're on the subject, handed you a bag marked states proposed exhibit number 6, or we'll soon have a new sticker on there. Marked states proposed exhibit number 6. Can you tell us what that is?
It appears to be the removed screen area. It's in a repackaged bag, so it's not the original packaging, but it looks to be the same.
And that was taken back to the lab for further analysis, correct?
Yes.
And were you the scientist that did the further analysis, or was it somebody else?
I did not do the analysis. Another analyst did.
And is it unusual for the lab to divvy up work or assignments, or is that fairly typical?
Well, anything biology related would go to the biology section, and I do not work in that department.
So if it went for biological screening, that would have been done by somebody other than you?
Correct.
And Ms. Weehee doesn't do that either?
She does not.
Ms. Gillis does,
She does screening, yes.
and Mr. Canaris does also.
Yes.
I'll move for the admission of number 6.
Any objection?
I don't think it, I mean, I think they need to bring it in for the person who analyzed it.
Well, it is the screen from the trailer. We can wait
Okay,
if need be. He's gonna be here this afternoon. but-
all right.
State's proposed exhibit number 100, please.
It's a view of the entry area of the trailer.
And anything noteworthy about what's depicted in that photograph?
I believe she took this photograph to show the visible residue that was there.
Let me hand you proposed exhibit number 100. Is the white residue more readily observable on the paper exhibit versus what's on the screen?
Yes, it is more clear.
All right, so we have covered the collection of all the stains, is that correct?
Yes, I believe so.
All right. And let me have you identify another exhibit. 7, state's proposed exhibit number 7. Is that the shower curtain that was removed from the trailer preserved as evidence for further analysis at the lab?
It is.
Now, one other thing I want to talk to you about is that you also used a different lighting device to examine the trailer, is that correct?
The chemical that we used?
What was the chemical? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. The Blue Star?
Yes.
Can you describe what that is?
Blue Star can also be used as a presumptive test for blood. It's usually used to search for trace blood or really small amounts of blood that aren't visible or readily visible, depending on the background that it's on. It also reacts to the heme component in blood, and it causes a blue chemiluminescent reaction, which basically just means that it glows blue.
And in terms of the order of things, did you do the Blue Star last, or did you do it before you collected the samples? What can you tell us about
The
that?
Blue Star is done last.
Always done last?
Yes.
And is it just an additional verification that what you were looking at, it was probably blood, or?
Sometimes it's used to find additional areas that we can't see, and a lot of times we use it for documentation purposes because it will illuminate more than what we see with our eyes.
And again, how is this done? You have a spray bottle with it?
Yes, so it's purchased chemical. It comes in a tablet form, and we mix it on scene with water, and then we spray a fine mist over the area. And if there's a positive reaction, it will glow blue. Otherwise, it will not glow at all. There are false positives that come with that as well.
Do you have to work in sections, or do you spray the whole thing down? What can you tell us about that?
We do small sections, so we're in a darkened area so that we can see the glowing reaction if it occurs. So we typically do one area at a time.
And as with the other techniques, the hemostats and the collection with the swabs that you've mentioned, is this also kind of a readily accepted technique for crime scene processing?
It is.
And I'm gonna show you some photographs. For this one, I think we need most of the lights off, because these are mostly gonna be black, correct?
Mhm.
So you can see it, turn off a lot of the lights. And we might need even more lights than last time, because these are truly just black with a few.
He wants.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, that would be, so, oops, I should have brought a flashlight. I guess I have to say which exhibits we're on. All right, the first one's gonna be number 101 proposed. What do we see here?
This is what the blue star reaction looks like. So we take a long exposure photograph in order to capture the blue glow that I was describing. And this is an example of that. It's hard to see which number it is from here.
Okay, I'm gonna go to the next one, which is proposed exhibit number 102.
This is another blue star photo.
And let's go to the next one, which is 103.
Another photo again.
And so when we're looking at these, is this the way you saw it when you did the blue star?
Yes.
All right, so when you see that kind of, the blue appearance, what are you presuming, or what is that showing you?
It can be used as a presumptive positive for blood. It's not saying it is, it's not specific. But it is, this is a photo just for the documentation purposes. We didn't do any extra swabbing after this.
All right, and so is it kind of like a belt and suspenders, where your initial testing, initial reagent testing caused you to think that there may be blood in those stains? You collected them, and then you did this other test just to verify that was the case?
Yes, so if we see some visible stains, we almost always use blue star as a secondary to see if there's any more that we can't see.
And let's go to our last exhibit, which should be 104. It is?
Another additional blue star reaction.
And how do you, this was done, the photography, was it a long exposure? What?
Yes, all of the, to capture the blue star, the glowing reaction, you have to have a long exposure. So it's really just leaving the shutter of the camera open for 30 seconds to a minute.
And were there more areas than the one we showed through these photographs that lit up with the blue star or not?
I
If you recall.
don't remember.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Turn your attention to state's proposed exhibit number 5.
This is a package of the 6 swabs that we collected from the trailer. So S1 through 5 and S7.
And, we didn't separate them out, but if we open that and separate it out, we would just see Q-tip type devices.
You would see 6 of those business envelopes, and inside each of those would be the swabs of each individual stain that was collected.
And I don't know, you probably know a bit like what happens to these things after they come to the lab, right?
After they're submitted to the laboratory,
Right.
they would go on to the DNA portion.
Right. And the DNA analyst, do they clip a part of that, the upper part of that swab?
Yes, if they're gonna test it, they do clip a small portion of it to start that process.
And the purpose for you gathering these things, was the whole purpose to have these things tested further at the laboratory using the instruments that are present at the laboratory?
Yes, what is submitted to the lab is up to the investigator ultimately. So they have more of the case information than we do, and every time we leave a scene, we leave them with all of the evidence for them to decide what they want to submit.
And that might vary depending on the type of case it is and
Correct.
the circumstances of the case and the investigation.
Yes,
Now, Ms. Nading, you had some other involvement in this case, is that correct?
I did.
What day was your other involvement?
I believe it was the next day on the 2nd, we went to a secondary crime, another crime scene.
And when you were processing the trailer, did you have any idea that you would be going out to the Knick River Road the next day on December 2nd, 2016?
We did not, no.
And how were you notified that your presence was required at the other crime scene?
I believe we got a call on December 2nd from Investigator Long.
And did you respond from Anchorage?
Yes.
And did you respond in the crime lab van or?
The crime lab vehicle with Carly Weehee and Martin Orlowitz.
And you remained at the scene with Ms. Weehee and the trooper investigators?
Correct,
And helped process that scene also?
correct.
All right, and when we talk generally about a quote-unquote crime scene, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a murder crime scene, is that correct?
It does not.
Like when you processed the trailer, did you make any determination based on your processing as to whether an assault had occurred there or a murder or some other crime? Did you make that determination?
No.
Now, on the other hand, the Knick River crime scene, was it pretty evident that that likely was a murder crime scene?
I wouldn't make that determination. There was a body there when we arrived, yes.
And you're saying this because possibly the body could have been moved there?
Yes.
But nonetheless, did you consider both the trailer and the area of near the Knick River Road where David Grunwald's body was found, did you consider both those places crime scenes?
Yes, each time we're responded, we refer to them as crime scenes.
And did each of those places, the trailer and the area of the woods where David's body was located, did they get the attention that they deserved by the processing teams?
I believe so, yes.
I don't know if this is, if I'm going outside the parameters of your training, just tell me, but a question, you have testified that you smelled some cleaning solution, you have testified that you saw some white residue on the floor. Is it possible to remove blood from a crime scene through the use of cleaning agent? Well, she might have had a whole course on that, Judge.
Lay a foundation.
Yeah, have you had any training on that?
I have not. Through the reading I have done, I know that it has been found that you can still get a DNA profile from areas that have been treated with cleaning agents, but I can't say for sure.
But some of these stains that you collected were pretty hard to see with the naked eye, right?
Yes, they were small.
Okay. And for some of the stains you collected, you had to look very closely at them to figure out that those were the places you wanted to swab?
Yes.
And let me ask you this, I know we covered the Blue Star, I didn't do that in detail, but is it fair, some of the Blue Star sites that we saw, were some of those portions different than the sites for the stains that we described through the photographs in your testimony?
Most of the Blue Star reactions that we saw were in the same areas that were already swabbed.
In the same general areas?
Correct.
But could you tell that whether there was 100% overlap or not?
I can't say.
Because what I'm getting at is that it's dark
Yes.
when you're doing the Blue Star, and it was light when you were collecting the stains, right?
Yes.
But all you could tell us is they were, the Blue Star images were consistent with the general location of the collection sites?
That's correct.
I would move to admit all the photographs we used, which were, I believe, proposed exhibits number 79 through 104.
Any objection?
No objection. Those
So admitted. Okay, cross-examination, Mr. Stone.
Good morning.
Hi.
How you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. So I think it was sort of touched on there, but Blue Star is basically you're spraying the Blue Star places where you saw visible blood for the most part.
We sprayed it throughout the interior of the trailer as well as part of the exterior door.
Okay. And from the photos we saw, you can't tell us if those were the same areas that you saw one of those 7 stains or if that was a different area?
If you look at the full, all of the pictures, there are before and after pictures, so you will see the general area of the stain, yes.
And you got basically 6 swabs that you submitted to the crime lab, is that correct?
We collected 6 swabs and left those with the investigator at the garage.
Okay. And there's different types of blood stains, are there not?
What do you mean by that?
You get blood splatter, you get contact with blood, you get pooling of blood.
Yes.
Any areas that you saw that were indicative of pooling of blood?
Not that I recall, no.
You get pooling of blood when somebody's really bleeding a lot, is that right?
I would assume so, yes.
And then sometimes you get like contact blood where somebody has blood on something and touches something else, is that right?
A transfer?
You get blood transfer.
Correct.
And then sometimes you get blood splatter, which is if you're hitting somebody with something and blood flies off, is that right?
Spatter, yes.
Did I say splatter?
You did.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
And did you do any analysis of the blood stains that you got to see if it was blood pooling versus blood spatter versus blood transfer?
No, I'm not a blood spatter expert.
But you didn't really see any evidence of blood pooling, is that correct?
Not that I recall, no.
And that's where you get a great deal of blood if somebody's really, really bleeding.
Yes, most of the stains in the trailer were small.
And they were difficult for you to see, is that right?
Yes, based off the background that they were on.
And you also have training on looking for blood, is that right?
Correct.
I mean, that is your job, right?
Right.
And you're looking very carefully for even small, minute amounts of blood, is that right?
Yes, we did a thorough search.
And one of the things you're doing with the Blue Star is just to see basically blood that you can't see with the naked eye, is that right?
Yes, we typically use it for a searching tool.
And quite frankly, you actually don't know when you're using those chemical tests whether or not something's blood.
We do not, no.
And what a presumptive test means is it might be blood,
Mhm.
and it's alerting you then to take a swab and collect that, is that correct?
Correct. It's a useful tool to collect only the probative stains versus the negative ones.
Like in this case, you had a S6, you used the hemosticks on S6, didn't test presumptive for blood, is that correct?
Yes, so we did not collect.
So that was something with the naked eye you thought might be blood, put a sticker up there, did the presumptive test, it tested negative, so you didn't even collect it, is that right?
Correct.
And you can collect a stain that doesn't turn out to be blood later, is that right?
It's possible, yes. I don't know the outcome of most of them.
Fair enough. What are some of the items that cause false positives for the hemosticks?
Bleach is a false positive. There are some other cleaning agents as well as ketchup.
There's a number of, like, fruit products, right?
There's a number, yeah, fruits and vegetables. There's also some paints that will be false positive.
Paints, apples,
Correct.
turnips,
Yes.
and you said ketchup is one.
Yep.
I don't think I have any other questions for you, thank you.
Okay.
Regarding pooling, we're not done yet.
Okay.
Regarding the pooling, pooling generally is on surfaces where blood can pool on, right, like flat surfaces generally?
Typically, yes. Otherwise, it would run.
So, for example, if there was a carpet covering the floor of that trailer, is it possible that blood could not have gotten on the linoleum if there was a rug covering the floor?
It's possible.
But when you examined it, there was no rug in there, is that correct?
I think so, yes. I don't recall.
Okay. But the white residue was on the linoleum, correct?
Yes.
And then also as to, false possibilities of false positives, does the hemosticks and the Blue Star use different chemical technology?
They're both reacting to the heme component in blood, and they do have similar false positives.
All right, but then eventually if the lab tests the stains for DNA, if it's bleach, it's not gonna come back as human DNA, right?
Correct. I mean, that's why we send them to the
If
lab,
it's a banana stain, it's not gonna come back as human DNA. correct?
unless there was DNA on the banana.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Blood pooling is something you see on a horizontal surface generally, is that right?
Generally, it would settle on a horizontal surface, yes.
And blood starts off as a liquid,
Yes.
follows gravity, is that right?
Yes.
So generally it flows to the lowest point.
hmm
Blood can also penetrate items.
It can, yes.
If it's really pulling up, if somebody's really bleeding, it will penetrate a carpet and go to the subfloor. is that
Porous surfaces, yes.
right? And you saw no evidence in there of blood pooling at all, is that right?
I did not know.
How many of those blood stains did you see, and you're looking for really small blood stains?
We were looking for just stains in general, yes.
Did you see any blood stains on the floor at all?
I don't recall, no. We didn't collect any from the floor.
None of the pictures we saw, S1 through S7, were on the floor. And I'm going to take that back, actually.
S6
S6 was on the floor.
was on the floor, yes.
But that didn't test positive. for
But it
blood.
was negative, yes.
So S1 through 5, not on the floor, correct?
Correct.
S7, not on the floor.
I believe so, yes. Yes. Not on.
S6, on the floor, didn't test positive for blood, didn't collect a swab.
Correct.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, ma'am, you can step down, thank you. All right, members of the jury, we're gonna change things up a little bit for the rest of the morning. We are going to do what is called a jury view. This trailer is being set up in the courthouse over in the JS.
Please state your full name and spell your first and last name.
My name is Kyle Pratt, Kylepratt.
What's your occupation?
I am a longshoreman.
All right, go ahead.
Thank you. Hello, Mr. Pratt, how are you?
All right, this afternoon, thank you.
Where do you work?
I'm a longshoreman down on the port of Anchorage.
And how long have you been doing that?
I'm going on 8 years.
And do you live in the Palmer area?
I do.
Where do you live?
I live up on North Helen Drive.
And how long have you lived there?
I bought in 5.5 months. or I mean 5.5 years.
Okay, all right, and this is a home, a residential area?
Yes, it is.
And where is this neighborhood located?
It's a mile west off the Glen Highway, across from the fairgrounds, behind the Noisy Goose.
I'm gonna be turning your attention to a while ago, and we have a calendar over there. In case you need to remove it so you can see it. States exhibit number 125, calendar of November and December 2016. And I'm going to turn your attention to November 14th of 2016. Were you outside in the morning on that day?
Yes, I was on Monday the 14th.
And what were you doing outside?
I was cutting firewood in my backyard.
Chainsaw?
Yes.
And do you have any neighbors by the name of Al Mendinger?
Yes, he is my neighbor. I share a property line with him.
And just tell us, how is his house situated in relation to your house?
His house is to the east of mine. There's probably 15 yards of woods in between us.
And his house is on a different road, is that right?
Yes, on Esty.
And so tell me, to get to your house, let's say from the courthouse to get to your house, give me the general directions to get to your house?
From the courthouse here,
Yeah, just from this Palmer area.
I would take the Glen Highway towards the fairgrounds, south towards the fairgrounds, and turn right on Moore Drive, and it winds up to Helen. And I'd continue down Helen to the intersection of ST and Helen, and my residence is the second on the right after Allmendinger's.
All right. And so they're on ST, is that right?
Yes.
And
there's
going
a-
that way, you would have to make a right on ST?
Yes,
And which street are you turning right from? Is that Helen?
that is Helen.
Okay, and then, once you get past the intersection where ST runs into Helen, you're just a little bit beyond that,
Correct.
on Helen?
First, yeah, it's the first driveway on the right.
And then, is there another way to get, if you don't go the way by the fairgrounds, is there another way you can get to that neighborhood?
Yes, there is. There's the, it's by the Tsunami Warning Center through the neighborhood there. I don't know exact names of those roads.
Palmer Wasilla Highway, then?
Yes, Palmer Wasilla Highway, and I just know it as the Earthquake Center turning there.
Fenton, I think is the name of that road, left on Fenton, maybe?
Yeah. I can't be exactly sure of that road's
But
name.
eventually it runs into Helen also?
Yes, it runs up into Helen.
And then you make a right to get to your place?
Correct.
No, okay, let's go back to your house, Almendinger House. How long have you been neighbors with them?
Since I moved in 2013, I bought in March. So for the last 5.5 years.
And what time do you figure you're outside on the morning of the 14th of November 2016?
It was between 9:30 and 10 a.m.
And was that a day off from work for you?
Yes, it was.
And did you notice anything unusual in the area?
When I was cutting firewood, there was a heavy smell of different chemicals in the air, and a smell of smoke. It was just a really different kind of smell that kind of raised alarm to me, and I burn firewood all the time, so I was kind of really wanting to make sure it wasn't any kind of chimney fire or anything like that. Well, when I was cutting firewood, I'd looked up at my chimney to see which direction the smoke was going, and could tell that it was blowing out of the northeast, usually like it does in the Matanuska. But it wasn't really like a wind, it was just, that was the direction of the way the smoke was going, was from the northeast. But it just was a strong odorly smell in the air.
And was it fairly still on that day, or was it windy? Well, you said you looked up at your chimney?
Correct, yeah, correct. So it was,
Is your chimney a wood stove chimney?
yes,
Okay. And was there some smoke coming out of your chimney?
yeah, and it was lingering out from the northeast, the way just the way it was falling. And it was a still morning. It just seemed kinda, it wasn't windy, like I say, you know, it's just that was the direction of, I guess, the wind was coming is what I meant.
And so did you smell your wood smoke also in addition to the other heavy smell you smoked?
From the place that I was standing, I could not have smelled my smoke. I was off to the northwest of it, where my wood pile's at.
And again, describe what kind of smell it was.
Um,
Related to something that all of us,
Just a strong smell of, it was like just a heavy smell of plastic in the air, like burning plastic, mixed with just a chemical smell. I just, you know, I can't really nail it down as far as to what kind of chemicals or anything, but it was just, it didn't smell right. You know, it smelled like burning plastic.
right, but you looked at your chimney, Ray. Did you look at the other chimneys around around that you could see also, if you remember?
The almond dingers will burn, and I could see it from where I was standing. If I recall, I don't think they were burning, but they'll usually burn like a poplar, and it too also smells. But I can't recall if they were burning or not.
But you're saying that when you looked around, you could not really detect where this odor was coming from, right?
No.
And did you walk anyplace else, or did you stay on your property then?
I stayed on my property.
And about how long do you figure that smell lingered in the area?
Just in the time that I was outside, the whole time that I was outside. And I'd probably say I was out there for a half hour cutting firewood.
Anything else about that morning, or not? Anything else you can remember about that morning?
No.
All right. Now, let me turn your attention now to the day before, during the evening hours. Were you outside your house during the evening hours the day before? So we're talking about Sunday, the 13th of November, 2016.
Yes, I was.
What were you doing outside during that time?
I was in my backyard. I have a steam house, and I was out taking a steam.
All right. And did you see or hear anything in the area on the 13th?
Yes, when I was walking in from my steam house, I heard a conversation from the almond dingers, and it was what I heard was Rodney speaking from underneath his carport. He had mentioned, he was saying, "You're going to have to call this boy's mother," is what I overheard as I was walking in from my steam.
And have you heard Rodney Elmendinger's voice before?
Yes.
And the voice you heard saying these things, that was Rodney Elmendinger's voice?
Yes, it was.
Was it in a loud voice? What can you tell us about the tone or the loudness?
Just, it was very direct. He always speaks direct. There's nothing ever quiet that comes out of Rodney when he's speaking over there. Just direct like he usually does. No anger in the voice or anything like that.
All right, and let me ask you the conditions. So it was dark when this happened?
Yes.
And could you see him or just hear his voice say that?
I saw his shoulder turn, or his arm turn as he was walking into the door.
And he was standing, at which part of his property was he standing in?
Underneath his carport.
Did you see who he was talking to or not?
No, I did not. I could see two individuals out in the dark, out from underneath the carport.
Could you tell who they were at all?
Not at all.
Could you tell if they were men or women? Anything about their size or shape or color that was remarkable?
All I had was shadows, they're in the dark, and they definitely looked to be, they weren't men. And they're, just two individuals.
You mean they weren't men, they were younger than?
Correct.
Than full-grown men?
Yeah.
Or, right. And are you going size-wise, is that what you're going by?
Pardon?
You going by their size?
Yes.
Or their build?
Yeah.
That's what you're going by? Okay. And about what time do you think you heard and observed this?
I believe it was probably 7:30, or it could have been later.
No, and did I ask you, was it a still night that night? Because sometimes the wind really rips in Palmer. Was it still on that night when you heard and saw these things?
I think it was pretty still that night.
And I imagine your steam house is separated from your house on your
Yes.
property. Are there any clocks around there? I mean, when I ask you to estimate the time, are you just kind of giving your best guess or best estimation?
I'm giving my best guess, just because looking back at phone calls and texts, wishing me a happy birthday, and just my father texting me how was work, and I'm just kind of trying to go by the period that I usually get done with the steam. And it all kind of depends on how warm the steam is and how long I'll be in there, but I think it was, I want to say it was around that 7:30 hour.
But you're saying it could have been a little bit later than that?
Yeah, it definitely could have been.
And it was definitely Rodney addressing two other people?
Yes.
And he was saying, what again, that they would need to do what?
What I heard was, he said, "You're going to need to call this boy's mother."
Now, were you familiar with the layout of the Elmendinger property?
Yeah, I can see it from my home.
So you knew they had a trailer on the property, right?
Yes.
And where was that trailer, did you notice that eventually the trailer was taken away from the property?
Yes, I did. Before
Before it was taken away, do you remember where the trailer was located?
Yes, it'd sit in a diagonal in the yard, kind of facing northeast, southwest. It always sat in an angle between their house and mine.
And about how close was it to their house, the trailer itself?
It's probably 20 feet away.
And they had a new garage, a newer garage they built on the property, correct?
Yes.
And about how far from the newer garage was the trailer?
That too is probably about 16, 18 feet away.
And this carport that you were talking about, where does that sit in relation to the house and the new garage and the camper?
The carport connects the home to an existing garage before the new garage. And the carport, it's only probably 20 feet away from the trailer.
Now, before, or let's say after the trailer was taken away, did you ever notice any activity on their property as if people were searching for anything on the property?
The night that I noticed the trailer was missing, there were two individuals out in the front yard with flashlights, looking around in the trees. And in all my time that I've lived there, I've never seen anybody out there walking around in those woods for any reason. And it definitely brought up, I was sitting at my dining room table, and it just brought alarm to me, what are these people doing? And they're awfully close to my property line, and what business do they have out there? So I took a long look and watched what they were doing. And they just seemed to be walking around with flashlights looking on the ground.
And this was after the trailer was taken away?
That was the night that the trailer was taken away.
The very same night?
Yes,
And was it dark outside when you saw this activity?
yes.
And could you tell who the people were that were looking through the woods?
Not at all.
And when you say looking through the woods, so, one person had a flashlight, what can you tell me, get any more details about that?
They
or no?
both had flashlights. All I can really recall is that one person seemed to be moving around a bit faster than the other, moving the flashlight around, and like, as far as my memory goes, that's the only thing I could think of, is that one was moving their flashlight around more so than the other.
And the people that lived on the Almendinger property, can you name those people off for me, please?
The people that lived there,
Yes.
Rodney Almendinger. I know he's got a son that lives there, and there's a grandmother. I don't know of anybody else.
So those are the people that you know to live in that house. Have you ever met the grandmother or not?
One time they had lost their dog, and she drove into my driveway looking for it.
And did she kind of rule the roost over there or not? Did you get any impression of the other relationships?
Yeah, she does a lot of loud talking too.
And then this camper, did you ever notice that there were younger people that tended to hang out or frequent the camper?
Yes, I did. There was, and I'm not outside every night to see, I wasn't outside every night to see what was going on, but a lot of the times there's kids hanging out in it or outside of it, walking between the house and the camper.
And this smell that you smelled on November 14th, did you believe that that smell was related to something being burned?
Yes, definitely. It had there was a smoke in the air. Like, I mean, there was an off haze in the air, like something had been burning. Like a smoldering. It was that kind of haze in the air. I didn't direct it to Almendingers. Just kind of figured it was coming from the neighborhood up northeast of me.
I'm going to ask you a couple more things. I have some photographs I want to show you, and I want to ask you just to point a couple of things out on the map. Could we have, if I need to put that up on the stand? Can you come up here for a moment? If you just share this microphone with me for a moment. This is a map that's marked States Exhibit number 12. Obviously, it covers a lot of the Matsu Valley. I want to focus your attention to this part of the map, and I know the streets are very small, but I was going to ask you if you can show the jurors, and I'll pass the microphone to you to show the jurors where you live. And of course, we do have some stickers covering some of the things up. So let me turn the mic over to you, and if you can kind of show the jurors where you live and where the Almendinger property is.
Underneath this orange sticker here is, let's see, well, it's actually just right here. My property is right here at this intersection of North SD and Helen.
And then the Almendinger property?
The Almendinger property is, they're more directly on the corner of North SD and Helen. I'm just the first driveway, so if you're just visiting my house, you'd almost think it was that I was on the corner, being the first driveway on the right on Helen. But this is the intersection right here.
And then, are you familiar with a place called Kangaroo Court in that area?
Kangaroo Court, yes.
Yes. Can you show, where is Kangaroo Court located in relation to your place?
It is just past my house through this S-turn here, and it's the first left. That's Kangaroo Court.
Is that a dead-end street, Kangaroo Court?
Yes, it's a dead-end cul-de-sac, like kind of a new subdivision, couple different houses in there.
Back in November of 2016, were there any woods there or trailheads, or what did Kangaroo Court look like back then? If you recall.
You know, I honestly just started visiting that area up there. I know they recently just started or had put in a water line up there to a school, but during that time I never frequented the area like I do now.
All right, thank you. I'm gonna turn your attention to some photographs. I don't have these on the screen. We're just gonna use the paper format. I'm going to turn your attention to State's Proposed Exhibit Number 72, if you can look at that photograph. Do you recognize what's shown in that photograph?
It's the Almendinger residence, the view from Estee.
And the house is that the front side of the house as it faces Estee?
Yes,
And is the old garage in that photograph?
yes, it is.
And the carport that you're talking about, is that the area between the house and the garage?
Correct.
I would move for the admission of 72.
No objection.
And I'm going to ask to,
So admitted.
thank you, and I'm going to ask to publish these as we go. Ask the jurors to circulate them around. Turning your attention to State's Proposed Exhibit Number 73.
This is the south side of the Almendinger residence. More of a view of the basement access underneath the deck.
I would move for the admission of 73.
No objection.
So admitted.
Turning your attention to State's Proposed Exhibit Number 74, if you would.
And this is the new garage they just built.
And does it show part of the old one too, in that picture?
Yes, it shows the, I believe it's the north side of the existing garage that's attached to the carport in the house.
Move for the admission of 74.
So admitted.
And turning your attention to State's Proposed Exhibit Number 76. Do you recognize that?
Yes, this is the trailer that used to sit between their home and mine.
And is that the location the trailer was in before it was taken away?
Yes, it's kind of cocked in there at an angle, like how they'd have to back it in there around the garage.
And the door we see, the man door we see on the new garage, is that along the side of the new garage? If you recall.
That's, there's two garages that were just built there, like a four-wheeler garage and then more of a vehicle garage.
Okay.
And I almost think, I don't get this visual here. So I think this must be the ATV garage. And
Smaller garage? Okay.
Yeah, and maybe my house might be just behind the trailer here, it looks like.
All right, thank you. Move for the admission of 76.
No objection.
So admitted.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Stoller.
Mr. Pratt, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right today, thank you.
I didn't quite see it on that map, but Kangaroo Court, you said the Almendinger residence is slightly to the north of your house, is that right?
It's to the east, like,
East?
yeah.
And how about Kangaroo Court from your house? What direction is that in? Is that to the west or to the east?
Northwest.
Northwest, okay. And usually the wind blows from the east to the west in that direction?
Yeah, out of the Matanuska Valley is generally how I perceive the wind to be coming from, coming out of the northeast.
Okay. And Kangaroo Court's to the northwest of your place, is that right?
Yes,
And you said on November 14th, you went to cut wood at 9:30, 10 o'clock, is that right?
yes,
And you're using a chainsaw?
correct.
What kind of chainsaw do you have?
A still?
Is that a two-stroke engine?
Yes.
Okay. And how long were you cutting wood for?
I was probably using the chainsaw for 10, 15 minutes or so, and then I split wood but with an axe.
Okay. So for the first 10, 15 minutes, you're running your chainsaw pretty solidly?
Yes,
And that's the two-stroke where you mix your oil with the gas, is that right?
correct.
Puts off a pretty good smell with the exhaust?
Yep.
And then after that, you split with a splitting maul, or you just use an axe, or?
Splitting maul.
Okay. And you did that for another 10, 15 minutes?
Yeah,
So get your good morning exercise?
yeah, definitely. Just enough wood for the week is generally how I'll do it,
Okay.
or for a couple days.
You do that sort of like on your days off, Monday, and then you get the week's wood cut then?
Yeah, it's,
And you're also burning wood at your house at this time, is that right?
that is correct. I burn spruce kill.
And so when you're splitting wood, are you looking at the Almendinger residence?
When I was splitting that day, I was facing south,
Facing south
yeah, kind of looking towards my home.
towards your home? Now, you said there was like a smoke in the air, it was just sort of hazy, is that right?
Yes.
You didn't see like a ground fire with smoke?
No, I did not.
Okay. And, you talked to the troopers about that on December 7th, is that right?
I believe that was the date.
They came to your house to see if they could search your property, is that correct?
Yes.
And at that time, you'd read about this in the paper.
I don't even think I'd really read it. It was maybe like a Facebook posting, or
But you knew there was a missing rug, didn't you?
sorry,
You were aware there was a missing rug when you talked to the troopers?
a missing rug.
Yes.
No.
Okay. Do you remember which troopers you spoke to?
I do not.
But you definitely remember speaking to them, right?
Yes.
They came to your property to see if they could search your property?
Yes.
If you saw a copy of the police report from that day, would that help refresh your memory of what you said to them?
Yeah, imagine if I was to read it right now.
If I could approach?
Can you identify whose report that is?
Yeah, this is Detective DeCore's report. It's page 8, stamp 185.
I'm not sure if that's the officer's report or is it a summary of the interview with Mr. Pratt, because those are two different animals. It's just a report, it's investigative Kerr's observations versus what Mr. Pratt reported to.
It is a summary of what he says to the troopers, as well as them going there to ask.
I'm looking here. You want-
Yeah, start there. That's good. Paragraphs.
Okay.
You've had an opportunity to review that.
Yes.
Does that refresh your recollection that with the conversation you had with the troopers at all that day?
Yeah, maybe a little. It was a bit of a time ago,
Yes, it was, right?
yes.
And this was fresher in your mind then, than it is now, is that correct?
Yeah,
Do you remember if you told the troopers that you think you might have read about the missing rug in the paper?
it brings back a memory, yes, of, I believe I had a paper, it seemed more like it was a Facebook posting, maybe that's what I'd also seen. But I think it was in the paper also.
So on December 7th, when you talked to the troopers,
Mm-hmm.
you were aware that the rug was missing at that point when you reported smelling the smell.
Yeah,
And that's the smell you could
And
smell over your two-stroke engine running your chainsaw for 10, 15 minutes?
if I was to think what was missing or what was burning, I would think that it was possibly the rug that was burning and casting off a smell of burning plastic.
And that was 9:30, 10:30 on November 14th, is that right?
That's correct.
And you were running your chainsaw that day when you smelled this?
Yes, but I had smelled that smell before I started running my chainsaw. And it was still there after I'd ran my chainsaw. There's a pretty good distinct smell to my chainsaw.
And you said Kangaroo Court is to the west of you, right?
Yeah, that's northwest of me.
And the direction, the wind from that area moves from the east?
That should be moving to the,
You're downwind, so you're upwind from Kangaroo Court, but downwind from the Almondingers, is that right?
yes, I'm more downwind from the Almondingers, the way the direction of the Matanuska Valley comes. Kangaroo Court is more to the northwest. I wouldn't be getting that.
And so you think you either saw a Facebook post or read about the missing rug in the paper, is that right?
Correct.
Let's talk about November 13th. You have a steam house, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
How hot do you get your steam house?
I've seen the dial at 250.
Do you remember how hot it was on November 13th?
It was probably upwards to that, and
How long are you in your 250-degree steam house?
not very long. You'll go in for a few minutes at a time and come out and cool off. And
5, 10, 15?
I'll do usually around like 3 or 4 segments of like 5 minutes, and then come out and cool off for about 10 minutes.
So go in there for 5, come out for 10, go in for 5, come out.
Yeah.
You get dizzy at all from all that heat?
If I'm not staying up on my water, you can.
Are you drinking water? Are you hydrating as you're doing that?
I do.
And so you think you did the steam house at about 7:30 that night? That was what you testified to?
Yeah, I believe, yeah.
Okay. So you think when you came out of the steam house, and how many times did you go in and out of the steam house?
It's always, I stay in there, I'm sorry, so there's 2 rooms, there's like an Arctic room, and then there's the steam house. I'll come out of the steam house into the Arctic room
Okay.
3, 4 times.
3, 4 times? And, like, is the Arctic room enclosed? Does it have a door?
Yes, it has a door, and I'll generally sit at the opening of that door.
So when you heard Rodney, were you in the steam house? Were you in the Arctic room, or were you out of that altogether?
I was out of that altogether, walking into my home, walking towards my back door, my garage.
So you're walking towards your back door out of the steam house. So at that point, you're
Yeah.
completely out of the steam house,
Yes,
and you had steamed that night already.
yes,
So you've been in the steam room 3 to 4 times at 250-degree heat,
yes.
and you're coming out. Are you dehydrated at that point, or?
Yeah, it takes it out of you. Kind of like a workout at a gym. It just takes it out of you and feel refreshed. And
Going in and getting a glass of water.
yes,
And you think that happened at 7:30?
Coming out of my steam, I believe it was 7:30. It was in that evening hour, 7:30. I'm not quite exactly sure now.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Pratt, when Mr. Stoller showed you the report from Investigator DeCoeur, he came out to see you. You didn't call the police about the smell, right?
No, it wasn't about the smell. I called him out to tell him about the flashlights out in the yard. And I reported that there was a smell of burning plastic. What they were looking for, I mean, I don't know.
Right, and the fact that you may have seen something about a missing drug, does that change any of your testimony as far as what you smelled or observed on those 2 days?
No, I was just reporting that I smelled something burning with a heavy chemical smell, and the two went hand in hand together. Like, it was just a strong smell for any kind of day, any kind of morning. It was definitely noticeable that something was odd outside.
All right, and I assume you use your chainsaw fairly regularly if you burn wood, right?
Yes,
Okay, so the smell of the chainsaw, that's a smell that's very familiar to you, correct?
correct.
Okay, and were you readily able to separate the smell of the chainsaw versus the chemically smoldering type smell that you smelled?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, sir, you can step down. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you will give in this case now before the school is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Please state your full name and spell your first and last name.
Full name is Sean Norman. First name is SHAWN. Last name NORMAN.
What's your current occupation?
Alaska State Trooper.
Good afternoon, Trooper Norman. How long have you been with the Alaska State Troopers?
Since August 2014.
What are your current duties?
I'm assigned as a patrol trooper in the Mat-Su Valley.
Were you working the Mat-Su Valley in July of 2017?
I was.
And what was your assignment back then?
Assignment back then was as patrol in the valley and to the Palmer Post.
Let me turn your attention to July 15th of the year 2017. Did your duties take you to a location at the end of Kangaroo Court in Palmer?
It did.
And can you explain what brought you to that location?
I was contacted by Mr. and Mrs. Grunwald that they had located some items at the bottom of a four-wheeler trail.
And were you familiar with that area before that day, or?
I was not.
No, okay. So is this a residential, is the Kangaroo Court a residential street?
I don't recall if there's houses. I don't believe there were houses on that street on Kangaroo at the time.
And you say there's a four-wheeler trail going from the road through the woods, or what can you tell us about the four-wheeler trail?
So at the end of Kangaroo Court, there's a dead ends and a cul-de-sac, and coming off that cul-de-sac, there's a trail that comes down, and I believe it goes back goes down into a ravine and comes back up a hill on the other side.
And did you know the reason that they contacted you to go to Kangaroo Court?
I did.
What was the reason for that?
They notified me that there were some remnants of what appeared to be some clothing and a outdoor carpet or rug that had been missing from a trailer.
And they felt that it may be relevant to their son's case?
They did.
And is it generally preferred, I'm asking what the troopers prefer, is it generally preferred that when it comes to evidence collection, that the troopers of the crime lab do evidence collection versus people not associated with those agencies?
Correct.
And typically, you've been involved with evidence collection in the past, correct?
I have.
And is there a typical protocol for evidence collection?
There is.
Do you usually document the evidence where it sits before you seize the evidence or potential evidence?
We do.
And did you do that in this case?
I did.
Were you by yourself? when you-
I was accompanied by Mr. and Mrs. Grunwald.
And did you meet him there?
I did.
Was this during the day?
I believe it was in the evening.
Was it still fully light out
It was.
when you were over there? All right. And you said you photographed things. Did you have a camera or a phone, or how did you accomplish the photography?
I believe it was with my issued phone.
And did you have good lighting to get photographs of what you were collecting?
I did.
So just tell, before we get into the photographs, just tell us, so you met them there. Did they lead you to a particular area over there?
They did.
And how far off the road was the area?
If I had to estimate, I'd say it was maybe 300 feet down into the ravine, maybe a little bit less than that.
And when you say ravine, did it have vegetation on it, or was it dirt? Can you tell us about that?
It had vegetation on it. It had kind of a ledge that dropped down into the hill. It came down, flattened out at the bottom a little bit. Looked like it had had some work done down in there, had a drainage or something put in down there, and then climbed back up the hill on the other side. And then there was a wooded area to the right as we were heading down the hill.
And eventually, did you come upon some things that were interesting?
I did.
Can you describe what type of things you saw?
The things I saw were burnt remnants of what appeared to be an outdoor mat or woven rug. And there were a couple of, looked like pieces of cotton that you would associate with a t-shirt.
And was that also burned?
It was.
And then, did you find anything else in the area? I assume, did you look beyond the area that was pointed out to you?
I did.
And did you find anything else in the area?
I did. I found a winter stocking cap type multicolored hat.
And where was that located? Was it close to where the burned stuff was, or was it further away?
It was fairly close. If I remember correctly, there was like a culvert or pipe, and it was right on the edge of that, or a hole in the ground. It was kind of stuffed into that.
And was that intact, or had that been burned also?
That was intact, if I recall correctly.
The photographs, you eventually provided the photographs to Sergeant Wegson, correct?
Correct.
And they made their way to the DA's office. Let me show you let me turn your attention to some of the exhibits on the screen. So I'll ask you to look behind you. Let me show Mr. Stoller the exhibits. We'll have to get them queued up on the computer and get the lighting turned down a little bit, please. Give me a moment. When I get the stack back, I'll ask you some questions about each one.
Okay.
And I'll refer to the exhibit number because we don't have the numbers on the photos that are on the computer. I want to make sure I'm looking at the right thing that you're looking at. If I got a moment, Judge, I just need to do some comparison here. Sorry, our order on the computer is a little off, so. But now I think I'm good with what's, so if we can have that first screen back, please. We'll get the order right here. The numbers might be not in order, but that's fine. Turning your attention to state's proposed exhibit number 236, can you tell us what's depicted here?
Yes, so the area down there, that looks like a burn mark with the remnants of that woven mat. And then it looks in the top left, it's hard to see if I can stand up.
Actually, some of the witnesses were using, let's make sure. There you go. So if you can use the laser pointer, and make sure the mic is close to you. All right, so back to 236. Is that one of the photographs that you took?
That is.
236. And what does this show? If you can use the pointer and describe what it shows.
So this right here is remnants of, it looks like a woven mat that's been burned.
And did you collect this stuff or just photograph it?
I collected it after I photographed it.
Turning your attention to number 237 proposed. Yep. 237 is this one.
Okay.
Tell us what's depicted there, please.
Hard to tell in the photograph that you have here. Do you have the hard copy of
Yes,
it?
we can, we've been doing that earlier this morning too, because these are clear.
Okay. So also, right here in this photograph is a part of charred woven mat, right here.
You can hang on to that one. Let's do the next slide and then we'll see which paper exhibit.
Okay.
This is state's proposed exhibit number 231. And let me know if you need the paper one, if the screenshot doesn't suffice.
Okay.
Go ahead. What's depicted in that one?
So this one right here is another piece of the charred mat that I have a ruler for reference for the size. There's also some piece of it right here and a piece down here.
And let's go to the next screen, please. Give me a moment. State's proposed exhibit number 230. I'm going to give you this one too, so you have the clearer one.
Thank you.
And what's depicted in that photograph?
So this photograph here is another photo of that second photo that we looked at with a ruler for depicting the measurement.
This is state's proposed exhibit number 234. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to give you the actual exhibit, if you look at both.
Thank you.
And if you can tell the jury what's depicted in 234.
In 234, again, we have a ruler for measurement for reference. And then right here, there's a piece of charred clothing, which appears to be cotton.
Turning your attention to state's proposed exhibit number 233. Give you the exhibit.
Thank you.
And if you can explain using the screen what's depicted in that exhibit.
Again, that's a piece of fabric that's got charring on it with a ruler for measurement.
Turning your attention to state's proposed exhibit number 235. If you would explain what's depicted in 235.
So this photo here, again, we have a ruler for measurement. There's a piece of charred cloth right there.
State's proposed exhibit number 232. What does this proposed exhibit show?
So again, ruler for measurement. Right here, we have a piece of charred, appears to be clothing with a seam right here and the charring on the outside.
Now I'm going to show you a couple of photos from a distance. State's proposed exhibit number 229. What does number 229 show?
229, this right here is where the pieces of mat and clothing were located at, and it's just showing a zoomed out picture of that area.
And was all the materials that we've shown in the previous photographs, were they pretty much grouped together in one area?
They were in an area that I would estimate to be about 5 foot in diameter down there.
And finally, state's proposed exhibit number 228.
So this here, so this here, we're looking at a close-up area of the burn area with the remnants and the other stuff that was scattered in that area.
So then, you said you collected every single one of these pieces?
All the pieces that I could find, correct.
And did you do, is that about all you did at this particular location?
At that location, collected the items in separate bags, and then took them to my patrol vehicle.
And when you, to get to Kangaroo Court, do you remember how you got to Kangaroo Court as far as which streets you took?
I don't remember the street names. I came up behind, I believe it was off of the Glen Highway, behind, I think it's the Noisy Goose of the Calling Kitchen, came up on the top of the hill, wound up going over to, I believe it was Helen, and then off of Helen onto Kangaroo Court.
And the snow cap or hat that you saw in the culvert close to this area, about how far was it from the area of the burn stuff?
I don't recall exactly how far away it was, but it was in the general vicinity of the bottom of the hill.
And I think last time we asked whether the material that was burned, whether the patterns were similar to the hat, or whether the hat had a separate color and pattern than the cotton material.
The hat had a distinct color and pattern different from what was observed in the burned area.
And the hat was intact also?
Hat was intact.
And you collected the hat also?
I did.
Thank you. If we can have the lights on. 228 through 237 proposed.
Was that 228 to 237? No objection.
So admitted?
And I don't have any other questions for Trooper Norman, thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Stoll.
How are you doing this afternoon, Trooper Norman?
Good afternoon.
That area in Kangaroo Court, that's pretty close to Crevasse Marine Trail System, is that correct?
I'm not real familiar where the marine trail is over there, but I believe it's close to that area.
Okay, kind of starts to connect to it, is that right? You know where the trailhead is for Crevasse Marine?
I believe it's off of PWH and Loma Pareda area, but again, I'm not real familiar with it. I know I've accessed towards the bottom of it with some investigations, and that was down by Matanuska Lake, I believe, is where it comes out.
You also know that the dump's located in that area?
The dump?
Yeah.
I know that the dump's off 49 State Street, which would be due west of that area, I believe.
You don't know how long those remnants were out there, do you?
I don't.
And you found those remnants on July 15th, 2017, is that right?
I was taken to those remnants on that date, correct?
Thank you for correcting me on that.
Yep.
And you said they were kind of spread out in basically a 5-foot area.
Approximately a 5-foot area down at the bottom of the hill.
Did you send them off to be tested for blood?
I did not.
Did you send them off to be tested for DNA?
I did not.
How about the hat? Did you have that tested for blood?
I did not.
How about for DNA?
I did not.
And how far away was the hat? Was that in that 5-foot sort of area, or was that?
I don't recall exactly where the hat was as far as that 5-foot area without going back out there and looking. I would say it was outside the 5-foot area though. There was like I said, there was like a hole in the ground that was in that area that had that hat kind of down in that hole.
Okay. And you have no idea how long that stuff was out there for, do you?
No, I don't.
No other questions?
Correct?
Thank you. As to the testing, was that something that you were supposed to make a decision on, or was that not your responsibility?
No, my responsibility was to chain of custody and put it into evidence.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Next witness.
Sir, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you will give in this case now before this court is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Do.
Please proceed. Please state your full name and spell your first and last name.
David Canaris, David Canaris.
Who's your occupation?
I'm the Assistant Chief at the Alaska Scientific Crime Detection Lab.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Cowden.
Thank you. Good afternoon. And this is the lab in Anchorage, correct?
That's correct, yes.
And tell us what you do as the chief assistant.
So my role, which I took over in January 2018, is to be over all of the different sciences. So I supervise all of the DNA sections. I'm above the supervisor for the DNA section, for the physical section, and for the chemistry section. I look at performance monitoring, write reports. I also do some scientific analysis in there too.
When did you start working for the Alaska State Crime Laboratory?
December 2012.
And what did you work before that, Mr. Canaris?
I was in the UK working with various police forces and the Forensic Science Service, which is the government-owned forensic science provider in the UK.
And in terms of, can you just give us a thumbnail sketch of your educational background and your training and experience?
Yeah, so I have a Bachelor of Science degree from the UK in chemistry and neuroscience. I also did, in total, probably around a year of on-the-job training spread out over various periods in various disciplines. During that training period, we do a formalized training program where we read materials, we do study tests, we answer questions, and at the end of that, we do a competency test in the actual type of analysis we're looking at to ensure that we are actually competent to perform those types of analysis. And then we also take a yearly proficiency test, which is a national test to ensure that we have this ongoing education and we're still current in the field.
And before you became the chief assistant, I imagine some of those duties are administrative, correct?
Yes.
All right. Before you became the chief assistant at the Alaska State Crime Laboratory, did you do casework?
Yes, and I still do some casework, although
And-
obviously less.
And what type of lab work did you do?
So I do biological screening, and I also do footwear impression analysis.
Tell us your training that you've had and experience you've had in biological screening, for example. First of all, maybe explain, I didn't really have, Ms. Gillis touched upon it, but I didn't really have anybody explain it fully. So can you just tell us what is biological screening?
So yeah, our forensic biology section is basically split into two different disciplines. The first part of it is biological screening, and in that part, we are looking for materials. We have all of the items of evidence come through our section. We look for materials which may have DNA present on them. So primarily we're looking for body fluids such as blood, semen, saliva, and we're also looking for hairs which may have DNA present on them. The second part is the actual DNA analysis, and I don't do that part.
And is the biological screening, is that, are there different ways of doing that? Is there visual screening and is there chemical screening?
Yes, so it would always start with a visual examination. So we thoroughly look at the item first, and then we will apply different light sources and a stereo microscope to kind of magnify smaller areas or recessed areas so we can give it a good visual search. We also have different alternate light sources that we can use to make certain stains fluoresce. And then we also have chemical tests, so presumptive chemical tests. If we find a stain which we think could be a body fluid, we will apply a series of different chemicals to a small portion of that stain that we've swabbed off, and then we look for a color change reaction. And the color change reaction would be indicative that we have indeed found blood or semen.
And how many years have you been doing biological screening?
I was originally trained in 2005, so I guess 12, 13 years.
And you did it in the UK and also at the Alaska Crime Laboratory?
That's correct. I was originally trained with the Forensic Science Service in the UK, but then when I moved to Alaska, I did another 3-month training program to show that the ways that we do things in Alaska is similar enough to the ways in the UK that I was competent to do those, and I was.
Are there some slight differences in the way it's done in England versus Alaska?
Yeah, really it's just the chemicals that are used. The actual methodology of how we go about examining things is very, very similar, but we use slightly different chemicals in the UK.
Have you been qualified as an expert in biological screening before?
Yes, I have.
On a number of occasions?
Yes, I have.
In this state
Yes.
and also across the water?
Yeah, it's a slightly different court system, but the equivalent of, yes.
Okay. I would move to qualify Mr. Canaris as an expert in biological screening.
Any objection?
I'm going to object.
You are?
Yeah.
Okay, come forward. Court notes the objection. And at this point in time, the court's going to deny it and grant the expert's certification.
Thank you. I'm going to turn your attention to some exhibits. Let's number 6 first. This is still a proposed exhibit, state's proposed exhibit, number 6. We can take a look at that. So, have you had a chance to look at that one?
Yes.
All right. Did you have occasion to examine the item inside that plastic bag?
Yes, I did.
At the crime lab?
Yes.
And did you examine it in 2016?
Yes, may I refer to my bench notes?
Right, go ahead.
Yes, I examined this on the 2nd of December, 2016.
And what was the purpose for you examining this item?
I believe it was removed from a trailer, and the Department of Public Safety submitted this item and asked whether there was any blood present on the item.
And the item, was it given a P number?
Yes, it was.
And what was the P number for the mesh from the screen door?
P16051874.
77?
So the mesh, sorry. I'm looking at another item. Yes, 77 on the mesh.
All right, and is that a number that the police agency gives the item before they send it to the lab, or is that a number the lab gives the item?
Yeah, it's my understanding this is a property number that is generated by the Department of Public Safety, not by the lab.
All right, and you said tell us, how did you examine it how did you examine the screen at the laboratory?
So first starts with a visual examination, and then I have flashlights, different directions of flashlight, depending on what type of stain it is and how deeply embedded it may be in an item. Shining a light directly down on it may not illuminate the stain fully, and so sometimes bringing the angle of the light down and shining a side light on it might illuminate it better. So I tried different light sources, and then I also used a stereo microscope, which is a type of microscope that we use to examine things in 3D.
And did you detect any stains on the screen, on the mesh?
Yes, there was a red-brown stain towards the bottom or the top. I couldn't quite tell which way was up and which way was down on it, but at one end of it there was a red-brown stain.
And did you test the stain to see if it tested presumptive positive for blood?
Yes, I did.
And what type of test did you employ for that?
It's a chemical test, a presumptive chemical test. We call it a presumptive test because it doesn't definitively say that this stain is blood. It gives us a good indication that it may be blood. And so I swabbed off a small part of this stain, and then I applied these two chemicals to this, and there was a color change reaction. It changed to pink, which is indicative of blood.
Ms. Nading testified a little bit about her using hemosticks in the trailer related to this case. Is the test you use similar to the hemosticks, or?
It's pretty similar, yeah. The hemosticks is the one that they use in the field, in the crime scene field, and when it comes to the lab, we use the phenolphthalein or Castle-Meyer test, which is the one I employed.
And then tell us what you did regarding this stain after you tested it for blood.
So once I got a positive reaction from that, I then swabbed a whole area of it off, and then I repackaged that swab and put it inside an envelope and give it my own item number, which is the parent item number, and then my initials after it.
And so did you use, Ms. Nading gave us testimony about how she obtained swabs of stains from the trailer. Is it basically the same technique in the lab?
Yeah, it's exactly the same technique.
All right. And is the head of the swab moistened first?
Yeah, we would use some sterile water to just moisten it.
And that's so we could pick up the other material?
Yeah, it's much better to transfer biological materials if the swab head is moistened.
And then after you moisten it and rub it over the stain, is that the best way to put it? Or what would you call it?
Yes, depending on what type of stain it is and what the surface is, you may want to try and get the swab tip further into the stain. And this one, because the stain was a fairly significant one, from my notes around 13 centimeters, which I guess is around 6 inches, 7 inches long.
Yep.
Okay, please be seated. I guess the question is, sir, what notes are you referring to exactly?
My bench notes, the contemporaneous notes that I take at the time of my
Were they ever provided the district attorney's office?
They were provided at the time of the original trial. I don't believe I've resent them.
They've had them since the original trial.
I don't think we have those.
I have a one-page.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you, how many pages is it?
So there's two different reports, and the first report is 4 pages. First report is 1 page, and then the first set of bench notes is 4 pages.
Okay,
And then the second one is a 2-page report, and then 5 pages of notes.
okay, and then the first report is the one you already had, right?
So I have a one-page report and a 2-page report. I don't have any of the bench notes for either.
For either?
That's correct. So the second page report, if I heard correctly, there should be 5 pages of bench notes. I don't believe I have any of those. And the first report, which is a 1-page report, I think he said there, did you say there's 4 pages?
4 pages, that's correct.
I don't have those 4 pages because he's talking about very specific things like sizes of stains and stuff that I don't have any of that.
We need to let him look at those.
And Judge, so we run into this issue pretty frequently. I'm not sure, I still, as of today, I'm not sure whether the lab, I think it's dependent on the person from the lab.
Mhm.
Sometimes we get bench warrants, sometimes we don't. I think Ms. Howard and I have a pretty good idea of what we have to this point, what we don't. And I guess it's one of those situations where we could always double and triple check, and usually our paralegals do that. But again, thousands of pages of paper that we have in cases, and we're dealing with a number of things, obviously motion work, trial prep. And I think nowadays, maybe we should all presume that there are some bench notes, and obviously, I didn't feel that it was
But
necessary.
either way, he needs to get them, so we need to get him copies. Why don't I make you copies right now, and you can look at what he's talking about at this point, and then determine if you think you need more time. All right, so let's make some copies for him.
And I'm going to renew my objection. I mean, this is the issue right here.
Well, Judge,
And I was going to ask for a limiting instruction on his testimony and wait to his reports,
The reports.
and the reports I've received, and we're definitely well beyond that.
Judge, it is an issue, but it's really not an issue. Here we're talking about somebody taking a Q-tip. I mean, really, Mr. Canaris is certainly an expert. I will recognize that. But as far as the isolating, I don't think this falls into the super duper complicated expert procedure type stuff. He's basically doing the same thing Ms. Nading testified that she did, taking a Q-tip type device, moistening it, rubbing it over the stain, putting it back into the package from which it came, and then sending it on to a different discipline. So, I mean, I understand it's an issue, because of course, we would love to
And
have.
as far as the test results that arose from his, the evidence that he seized, those have been provided, right?
Well, his report, which just says, so when it comes to these items, he didn't draw any, the only conclusions he drew was that he saw things and he tested them, they came back presumptive positive for blood. And then he gathered them via the Q-tip devices, and then he retained them in the lab under certain numbers for future testing by Ms. Johnson. That's the gist of it, and that's probably the reason why Ms. Howard and I, Ms. Weininger Howard and I did not request the bench notes, because we didn't feel that we would gain anything from the bench notes for this particular part of Mr. Canaris's participation in the case. Now, again, we encounter this frequently now because of a number of things. Maybe we need to revisit the procedure, because the way it really does work, judges, the troopers request the services, the DAs don't. The reports come back to the troopers, then they get funneled to us. Sometimes we get them directly, but it's not always the case, and,
But the problem
perhaps.
is, the defense has no access and no way to even get them.
What's that, Judge?
They said the defense has no way to even get them.
Well, they do. I mean,
Well,
I wouldn't be surprised if a defense attorney could email, all the lab people.
Actually, we've been barred from emailing them because they're in times past, because they say that they're represented by Department of Law, so we're not actually supposed to not contact them.
Or maybe I should have used other words, maybe, ask us, and then we'll gladly ask, because we would like that, again, it's not anything.
Let me
more-
ask you, the follow-up witness you're calling
Yeah.
regarding that information, okay, when is she scheduled to come?
Ooh, we don't have, our schedule's back with the paralegal next week, I
All right,
believe.
what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna have him come back probably next week,
Okay,
and that'll give Mr. Stoller some time. Then we'll have to see what the prejudice is at this point in time for the late notice, so. He can argue that, I
And I just
understand.
want to say for the record, we got this expert notice 5 days ago, and we're getting parts. of
And,
this
and, and
report.
what I need to know though is what was the stipulation in the first trial?
yeah.
How did that come about? Was there notice in the first trial of how this was collected? I don't recall, but
Now, what
I think
happened-
there can be some, I mean, it's,
We had 5 notices for expert, and I think the presumption was that the testing was the testing, and we probably wouldn't have to litigate that. We had notices for Ms. Gillis because she tested a gun, Dr. Gallagher, because we always call the ME, and who else we had? Let me see if I have the file here.
I know Gillis and Dr. Gallagher.
We had
Roche.
Rochelu, let's take a look here. We had Tana Lang Yarnell. We had, let's see, Rochelu. We had Gillis, and we had Gallagher. So we didn't, and those notices were filed back in October of 2017. And that was, we didn't notice up the lab people, although the defense had all these reports. So our notices are obviously, they say the same thing the reports say. And then it was actually brought, when we were reviewing the case prior to trial, we noticed, we had a conversation with Mr. Stoller, and he said he didn't want to stipulate, so I ran the stips by him, which is fine. Then we sent him the official notices saying, basically, they're gonna testify exactly what exactly what their report says, which they've had for a year and a half now, or
Well,
whenever we.
I haven't had it all, have I?
No, and I understand that. So I
was
mean,
asked to stipulate after we picked a jury, by the way.
yeah,
okay.
well,
Well-
I mean,
I think for now, to give Mr. Stoll an opportunity to look at the bench notes to see if he wants to challenge the foundation for the testing that he's laying out, I'll give you some time to do that. So what we'll do is, we'll bring the jury back in, and you just motion to bring your witness back at another time, and we'll keep him under oath, okay? Or under subpoena. And we'll just deal with that later.
oh, if they discovered. Oh, apparently, we just got some electronic communications that the notes were in PBK. And again, we got thousands of pages of paper, so we will
Well,
follow
let's
up.
Double check.
Yeah, we'll follow up if they're in
That maybe have
PBK.
been on a CD somewhere, is
Yep.
that what you're telling me? It might be in
Exactly,
there?
so
Okay.
I don't want, let's, I guess what I'm saying is.
I'm not
Judge,
making any decisions, I'm just giving time,
Okay,
so.
and we'll follow up on that. We'll see if it's in PBK and whether it's bait stamped, if it's bait stamped, or if it's on a CD that was provided, it was provided. So again, I don't think it's something we can.
And
prove up
again,
at
in the
this
first
time.
trial, it probably wasn't printed out or anything by the defense, because they stick to it, and they didn't really think they needed it.
He was calling.
He was.
It was called, I recall that, yeah,
Yeah.
but there was a lot more stipulations to the foundational stuff, as I recall, too. so.
And we'll follow up,
Okay,
because we try to scan everything into our electronic system.
well, we'll figure it out, we got a few days. So what I'm gonna do is just call him back in, we'll excuse him for the day. You can make a motion, Mr. Kalachek, to bring him back, and we'll go from there.
All right, thank you.
Oh, yeah, do we wanna call in juror number 16 right now, or do you guys just wanna think about that for a day? Where she used to live? And then I guess Mr. Kalachek had an issue too, so,
Yeah, if you want to address that.
okay.
I'd like to think about.
Okay, we'll hold off on 16. What issue did you have, sir?
Can we bring it up at the bench?
Yeah, come on up. Bring it on. What was his question? I didn't see this. Okay, please be seated, everybody. Go ahead, Mr. Kalachek, what's your motion?
Yes, I mean, given where we're at right now, given we have other witnesses tomorrow that are lined up already, I would ask that we'd be able to call Mr. Knarrs back. Probably going to have to be next week.
Okay, and we'll just keep him under, so you're under subpoena, sir, return? Okay, you can be excused for now.
Thank you.
So we're gonna go ahead to 3:45, we're gonna call it a day, start early tomorrow. So we'll see you guys at 9 o'clock tomorrow. Okay. All right.